Ladies and gentlemen, I am Paul, U.S. Army combat veteran, and today we are going to be taking a look at the meme blowing up across TF2. As always, I am, of course, way late to the party. This is going to be Dr. Leafsie, and I'm going to be reacting to all the TF2 Dr. Leafsie memes, or at least the good ones. Let's get into it. Also, I'm not going to be able to monetize this, but let's do it anyway. Boom. Who is Dr. Leafsie?
Due to his overwhelmingly positive disposition and absolutely huge body, the animated version of Dr. Leafsie gracing our screens comes from a Russian adaptation of the 1883 work, Treasure Island. This seafaring journey brought pirates and adventure to the...
So I just want to point something out that let's take a look at this animation real quick. This animation sucks. And it's sort of funny to see the way that often the Soviet... the Soviet entertainment industry, right? I understand it's not that important. And there's some things that they did really well. There's some really great Soviet sci-fi authors, for example. But this sort of animation is something that you would expect from maybe the 60s, right? This is like Hanna-Barbera Saturday morning cartoons in the 60s and 70s, caliber animation. At the same time, right, in the US, we were looking at, I want to say like The Little Mermaid, right? Disney movie. Yeah, 1988, we saw... Oh, let's find out. Okay. Yeah, we had things like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Brave Little Toaster. Okay. These are not like classics per se, but like let's just look at the difference in animation here between this thing. Like here we go. Here's 87s. Here's some like just a chance to kind of preview the animation if we can get away with it. I don't want it to unmute, but I do want to look at the animation. There we go. See the animation difference we're talking about here? This is way more lifelike, way more vivid. And admittedly, again, they, were selling movie tickets. So, when it's a commercial enterprise, you can put a whole bunch more resources into animators and everything else, right? This, in contrast, why did the Soviets give a shit about making sure animated movies were so good?
Our screens comes from a Russian adaptation of the 1883 work, Treasure Island. This seafaring journey brought pirates and adventure to the imagination.
What's interesting is by 88, of course, the Soviets were starting to experiment with some free market ideas about having, private plots of land, some private enterprises. So you may have actually seen some sort of incentive to release interesting movies that would get Soviet consumers to the theater.
Favorite books as a kid and sports an incredible Disney adaptation in the form of Treasure Planet. That being said,
which has been getting a weird amount of love, actually, that movie on some of the video essayists, which means that, of course, the YouTube video essay ecosystem has covered every other movie.
Russian adaptation was created in 1988 and portrays Dr. Leafsie as much more than his quiet, practical, and ethical counterpart in the original novel. Suddenly, we have this larger-than-life character with an unsettlingly permanent grin, fighting pirates and going absolutely nuts in every scene, and it's...
Yeah, the fact that they've taken a complete beta male character in the form of the Doctor, someone who's totally out of his depth, an academic without practical skills, and then turned him into this all-encompassing superhuman is pretty funny. I think that may actually be part of the appeal of old Dr. Leafsie, is that, he is sort of like a little bit of like a Z's character, someone who starts out as a very normal, kind of squirrely dude in the original novel, and has transformed himself into just like Giga Chad, who's fighting pirates by himself, right, with his barrel chest. And
whilst Dr. Leafsie clips and images seem to have thrived thanks to Russian meme pages from roughly 2018 onwards, they've certainly blown up in English.
The Soviet Joker. Yeah, the irony, of course, being that the Soviet Joker is a vastly overpowered character relative to the other protagonists, right? This is a bit character in this story, bear in mind. The actual characters being, of course, Long John Silver
areas recently, thanks to an
and Captain Flint
reference last year and then TikTok this year. Weirdiana seems to be responsible for spreading the trend, as they posted a video of Dr. Leafsie on the 2nd of July.
And let's be honest for a second, guys. Dr. Leafsie probably is more Sigma male than he is alpha male, just because despite this insane prancing walk. Dr. Livesey just seems to live his own best life and isn't really subject to anyone else's whims. Of course, showing up laughing hysterically as a man dies in front of him is already kind of a weird intro, especially to someone you've never met.
This year, which would absolutely blast off in popularity and cause the character to remain one of the most famous renditions of the Good Doctor in the modern era. It's certainly worth watching the original animation, as the whole thing is available on YouTube and features protagonist Jim Hawkins doing what appears to be a reference to karate for some reason. In short, it's absolutely whack, which fits right in with this era of shitposting.
I mean, this is basically the Soviet version of shitposting for sure. The fact that you can put this preposterous shit together and release it as a film is pretty hilarious, right? Having Jim Hawkins randomly learn karate, how did the Soviets even get karate?
So large of an impression has this...
I mean, so there is actually a Soviet-era martial art called Sambo, which is sort of a combination of a militarized version of judo, sort of like how the U.S. Army developed its combative system around Brazilian jiu-jitsu. You saw the Soviet military developed Sambo as a martial art, and it's actually, man, wow, okay. Bad news. This is, man, I might get demonetized because apparently, I just Googled it. Apparently, this shares a name with a bad word. You can see here Sambo martial art, but if you just search for it regular, it's actually a derogatory term for a person of African descent. So, again, this is, for those of you hanging out, I'm referencing, of course, the martial art of Sambo, which is so similar that in many cases a high-level judo or Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioner might actually be able to transition over to Sambo and still do well, and vice versa. All right, as you can see, there's a variety of different iterations of Sambo, but you can see here combat Sambo actually has a lot of things. It looks like a form of mixed martial arts, and it basically is, relying on punches, kicks, and submission holds to achieve your victory. So while a striking and grappling martial art has a robust history, and the Soviets would have actually been familiar with it, it's not clear on why Jim Hawkins has abandoned that to instead do karate.
Watching the original animation, as the whole thing is
he karate chops
Jim Hawkins doing what appears to be a reference to karate for some reason. Era of shitposting.
Yeah, it makes the karate just that much more
Has
preposterous.
this masterpiece made that many are already creating fan art of Dr. Leafsie given his oddly charismatic presence. It's interesting how far this character is going in terms of gaining attention, as it could be argued it would be less likely that people would...
Yeah, he is definitely just a pure Sigma male. He barely regards the people around him as human.
Without the cultural groundwork laid by previous Chad memes. If a child were to watch Treasure Island without prior internet knowledge, then perhaps they would like Dr. Leafsie given how funny he is, but the whole big guy who just does what he wants and does it excellently thing may not come up as
Yeah, the true Sigma male is, of course, the self-checkout, who, when they don't want to check out anymore, they just stop what they're doing. They just go, I'm done here. I think you have the wrong bag in the bagging area.
Years of meme culture priming that sort of story. It's an interesting example of small social conditioning, as people will often identify certain traits common in the Chad stereotype and apply it to any type of media.
Which is interesting, because here's what's fascinating about the Soviets is that culturally, there was not a ton of exchange. There was some, but a lot of cultural norms evolved in the United States and separately in the Soviet Union. Obviously, there wasn't a ton of exchange between the two. So what that meant was that the idea of this like Chad character, right? It's something that has its origins predating it's not something that's a modern cultural outgrowth. And it sort of makes sense. We all know someone, or the idea of a person who is incredibly physically powerful, perhaps very smart, but simply is inscrutable in their actions, right? And this is something that's probably been true for years, right? For thousands of years. You think about some characters in the Odyssey, right? Certain gods. This was a classic move of gods in many ancient myths, but again, especially the Odyssey where gods feature so prominently, you would have characters who simply would pick and favor humans, giving them superhuman powers and advantages for arbitrary reasons, for favor or no reason at all. So it would make sense that that permutation of a character who is both incredibly powerful, also disconnected from people, and inscrutable would evolve into something like this Sigma male stereotype.
We'd love to see huge, ridiculously strong characters that play a bit of a wild card role, and for that the Russian animated Dr. Leafsie fits that scene perfectly. In short, Dr. Leafsie is a fantastic...
I have a powerful job. She criticizes me for being egocentric.
Has been repurposed to fit more.
You practice your mannerism.
As the character embodies much of what people
Category smug jack. Love it.
About the Chad stereotype. What meme would you guys like me to give a lesson in next?
Okay, wow, that was interesting. All right, guys, let's see. Now we're switching up to Intel and Death, the 2-Fort Walk from Colonel Zach. Me and the boys on my way to steal the enemy's intelligence.
If God had wanted you to live, he
would not
have created me. Oh, shit.
Oh yeah, we are 100% getting demonetized for this puppy. But man, what a Chad. We've all been here, right? Though not usually soldier. I think of Heavy as the true Sigma male, right? Behaves in ways that are hard for other players to understand. Just struts around the map, doing whatever he wants, basically living by his own set of rules. That is the... that to me is the Dr. Leafsie of TF2. Soldier, not so much. Soldier's a little more dynamic, right? Rocket jumping, moving around the battlefield. Doesn't necessarily have that super Chad energy. And doesn't even necessarily have that level of weirdness, you know? Medic might actually be more of a Dr. Leafsie, just because medics behave in ways that you and I can't understand. Again, shout out to your boy, Colonel Zach. So they're getting it. Yeah. And then just walking right back. I love this. This is great. This is, literally no game has gone like this. Unbind E. I love it. Shout out to Colonel Zach for being a Giga Chad. Okay, let's see. When your medic is Dr. Leafsie.
Thank you so much for fixing my leg, doctor.
Papers, please.
Oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell you my health insurance expired yesterday.
Inside you, there are 2 kidneys. I want to steal them.
No!
Yeah, this is okay. The other thing is that in the Soviet era, a lot of art could not go against state interests. So you might notice that Treasure Island is a story about people betraying each other and a broadly bad outcome for many people in the pursuit of naked wealth, right? It was an indictment in some ways of capitalism. And of course, that's going to be something that lines up very well with Soviet indoctrination for children. And so it makes sense that Dr. Leafsie would be seen as very wealthy, extremely connected in that sort of way, a part of the aristocracy of the era. And that he would not give 2 hoots about stealing a kidney. Yeah, that sounds about right. And then finally, we got one last one, Putis and Death, from our boy, Silent Man Joe. Also getting demonetized for using this music, but let's do it. Yeah, see, this is more accurate. This is Heavy is the Dr. Leafsie of this situation. He's also like Dr. Leafsie in the fact that he can randomly heal himself or heal you, depending on his choices. Is this just the walk animation? Yes, it is. All right, well, thank you for that. Guys, I hope you have enjoyed this dive into meme-ming. Boy, howdy, was that weird. Anyway, guys, as always, of course, if you want to see my real-world combat video breakdowns that are too spicy for YouTube, YouTube says combat videos bad, become a member of the Patreon. Thanks to my Lieutenant tier patrons, links in the description. Catch you guys in the next one.